Alright man, can somebody tell me where Cindy Lou Who fits into this whole thing? Did she go to med school? Alright folks, it's nostalgia time. As a child of the 80s, we had some serious properties to lean on for the formation of our childish worldview. We grew up with He-Man. This guy was Hulk Hogan with a bowl cut, just straight up slaying his foes, riding a tiger into battles with equally geared up skeletons and beasts, dude. These guys were all on steroids. They were fighting over Eternia's supply of human growth hormone and Anabol, which was stockpiled in Castle Grayskull. And then you had the Transformers. In the words of Orson Welles, legendary actor and Hollywood weirdo, whose last role was in the Transformers the movie, as Unicron, he said, "It's a Japanese game show where robots transform into other robots or some damn thing." I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something similar, and it was his last role, dude. Before he died, that was his last role. Crazy. And then we had G.I. Joe, man. G.I. Joe was out there teaching us lessons at the end of every episode. Honestly, I didn't pay too much attention to G.I. Joe. The figures were a little more expensive. My parents didn't want to pay for them. But it was like a paramilitary propaganda show for the United States. My favorite dudes in that were Destro and Cobra Commander. Those were the two guys I liked because they wore masks, right? I always wished it was more socially acceptable to cover my face with a reflective mask. And all of a sudden this pandemic happened, I can wear a mask whenever I want. Now listen, before I get too deep into this, do I even have to tell you to subscribe to my channel if you're not already? I mean, are you going to come across this video and you're like, oh, I really like that dude, I guess I'll never see him again. Anyways, back then we only had 3 channels. We had NBC, ABC, and CBS, but we also had Fox sometimes, which aired British syndicated shows like Fawlty Towers, Benny Hill, who was a real whack nut who would never have survived in today's culture, and we had Doctor Who. Now, Doctor Who seemed like it'd be right up my alley. I love sci-fi, and it was sci-fi. And there was Time Lords, dude. There was Daleks, and there was some mutants. I tried watching the show at some point, man. I don't know. I was bored to tears by it. All I remember was the theme song music. It was like, bow da dow da dow da dow da brew. Look, man, all I know is that he was a Time Lord, and at that point, it all gets kind of fuzzy. The title sequence had a British guy just kind of looking around, being a creep. I mean, why the heck was I going to watch what that guy was doing when I could watch Voltron? I think there was the Time Lords had their own planet, right? And the problem was they had no time ladies. And as any red-blooded Time Lord can tell you, hanging out with time dudes all day gets old. What do you think, Elon Musk has a TARDIS time machine? When you're a Time Lord, you got one eye going east and one eye going west. That's how you keep an eye on the time streams, dude. You go to Earth for a time wife. Hey, you want to see a dinosaur? No, I don't want to see a dinosaur. Let's buy some shares. So some of the Time Lords got mad because time bros before time hoes, and they chased him across the universes. Doctor Who is basically Planeswalker, I guess. Honestly, man, I kind of conflated Doctor Who with Quantum Leap in my mind. I thought they were the same show. That was another fuzzy memory kind of show where Scott Bakula leapt into people's bodies in the past, and he screwed up their lives royally, or he fixed their lives, I'm not sure which. So let's do a little retrospective here. Last year we had the Warhammer 40k Commander decks. These were a resounding success by all measures. Everyone seemed to love them. They packed some really powerful, flavorful cards in there. Now single prices are a little bit conflated because of the surge foil treatment, right? Which is a foil that jumps right out of the pack. It surges onto your wrist and curls into a surge bracelet for you. So watching these single prices was kind of a wild ride, but the most expensive non-foil single currently is the enchantment Shadow in the Warp. 1 red and green for an enchantment. The first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. That's awesome. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, Shadow in the Warp deals 2 damage to that player. This is currently about $16 or so. This just goes and goes in Gruul decks, man. It goes in every Gruul deck, you just slap it in there. It's a cost reducer and a punisher, and it's fantastic value. And we also got cards like Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch, 2 blue and a red for a creature demon. It's a 2/4, has Sorceress Inspiration. At the beginning of your upkeep, return an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard to your hand. Also has Fires of Tzeentch. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this guy deals 1 damage to each opponent. Pretty nice. Getting a free card at the beginning of your upkeep and dealing damage as a spell slinger payoff is awesome. Also, is about $16. So if you take the surge foils out of the mix and use the cheapest versions only of these cards, there are 20 so cards in the Warhammer 40k decks that have a market price that's about $5 or above, which is about the price of a booster pack. This is going to be germane later. I can't overstate my praise for the design of this set. It being a standalone set of commander decks allowed the design team to run free, take some chances, some of which really panned out, and just design awesome cards. Check out the singles prices, check out the singles from this set, there's a ton of value there. So coming in October, along with the Doctor Who Commander decks, of which there will be 4, Wizards is releasing collector boosters. These are going to be randomized packs containing cards from this standalone set, the Doctor Who Commander decks. As far as I can tell, there'll be collector boosters only. As per the marketing materials, there are 50 new cards in the Doctor Who decks for each deck, so that's approximately a set of 200. Now again, as far as I can tell, there's nothing saying that there are additional cards not in the Commander decks that may be included. Cards like Urtet, Chisgoria, little bonus cards with the March of the Machines Commander set symbol, but aren't found in the March of the Machines Commander decks. Or maybe it was All Will Be One. I can't remember, dude. Urtet might have been from All Will Be One. Nobody come at me in the comments and just start eviscerating me. Dude, I'm just a human being, brother. Anyways, smaller sets like Dragon Maze and Born of the Gods had 150 to 170 cards, so 200 cards in total in randomized booster packs isn't unheard of, and the way I see it, this can be a positive thing. The fact that there are collector boosters will inject an added supply of singles into the marketplace, which will hopefully see the single prices remain reasonable. But don't forget folks, Commander decks contain all rarities. I remember when they first started printing these Commander decks, there was a little card called True Name Nemesis, which is 1 blue for a creature, a merfolk rogue. It's a 3/1. As it enters the battlefield, choose a player and has protection from the chosen player. Originally printed at rare, this was reprinted in subsequent sets as mythic. I mean, the rare cards from the Commander decks will appear in a rare slot. So in collector boosters, you're still opening a fair amount of nonsense. There are commons and uncommons in those decks, and opening a huge amount of that chaff may have the effect of just cratering the value in the Commander decks. Rest assured, if there is value in the set though, the cards will be reprinted at some point in some products, just like True Name Nemesis. And if you want to participate with the set but you don't want to buy a Commander deck because it's $50, are you going to spend $25 for a Commander collector booster? Alright, listen, I'm just going to go on a rant. If the Warhammer 40k decks are any indication, there's going to be lots of value in the Commander decks. People are going to want these cards for their Commander products. Is there enough to stretch this into a collector booster product? I would argue that the collector booster situation is kind of overdone in general. Every single set, no matter how small, has a collector product. There are full art, alternate frame versions of every card. I can't even say the word alternate anymore, dude. If the card is good, playable, and popular archetypes like the old Keeper of Secrets here, then the price will hold up and the value will be there, I suppose. Anyways, it's something interesting to think about. You have collector boosters, a randomized product, alongside a non-randomized set of 4 pre-constructed decks. How is this going to affect deck construction in the first place? Take a look at the value of the Brothers War, a set that came out close to Warhammer 40k Commander decks. For the cheapest versions, non-showcase, non-alternate frame, there are about 15 or so cards that are above $5, which is the price of a pack. So there appears to be a comparable value in the Warhammer 40k decks, probably more so in the Warhammer 40k decks, probably because those decks, the entire set, doesn't have to be fettered by the ability to be drafted. I think that's the way to go. They play well together with high power and can be customized with existing game pieces. Now, if the Doctor Who decks continue this tradition, I think they'll be banger precons, and the added bling version in the collector packs will hopefully be icing on the cake. The Commander decks are pre-selling for around $50, which is also comparable to the 40k decks. They sold for about $50 as well. But the Doctor Who decks include some plane chase and some other added little friff-raff out there. So it all comes down to the genuine creative capital packed into the new designs and the internal synergies of the decks. Are they fun to play with? Are they fun to play against? Is there new designs? Folks, listen, I'm optimistic that the decks will be nice. The 40k decks were nice. I think they want this product to be a bunch of bangers, so the value will be there, hopefully. And if the value's there, the added supply in the collector boosters will hopefully have the effect of keeping the single prices low, which is what old Nikki G wants. The whales and mass box openers will open a bunch of these boosters, and then we'll see what happens, I guess. Anyways, it's happening. It's Nikki G from Better Commander signing off.